The soldier knelt beside the first body and turned the face toward the morning light. He had seen dead men before. 2 years of war had shown him plenty, but something about this one made him stop, made him look closer, made him call out to his captain. "Sir, you need to see this." The captain walked over. He was a man in his 40s, gray in his beard, tired in his eyes. He had led burial details before. He knew what to expect: bodies, blood, the terrible aftermath of violence. He did not expect what he saw. The wound was precise, a single bullet hole in the back of the skull. Clean entry, the kind of wound that comes from close range, from a steady hand, from someone who knows exactly what they are doing. The captain looked at the next body. Same wound, same location, same angle. He looked at the third, the fourth, the fifth, all the same. 24 bodies lay on that platform, 24 Union soldiers executed on September 27th, 1864, and every single one of them had been shot in the exact same spot. This is the story of what the burial detail found at Centralia, not the massacre itself, but the discovery. The moment when Union soldiers realized they were not looking at the chaos of battle. They were looking at something far more disturbing. They were looking at precision. The burial detail arrived at Centralia on the morning of September 28th. They had ridden through the night. Word of the massacre had spread fast, and the commander wanted bodies recovered before they deteriorated further. Missouri in late September was still warm. Bodies left in the open would not last long. There were 32 men in the detail, soldiers from a nearby garrison. Most of them had never been to Centralia before. Most of them did not know what had happened there. They knew now. The smell hit them first. That particular smell of death that soldiers learn to recognize, sweet and rotten and somehow metallic. The smell that seeps into your clothes and stays in your memory long after the bodies are buried. Then they saw the crows. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Black shapes circling overhead, landing on the platform, taking off again, fighting over the bodies, doing what crows do. One of the younger soldiers vomited. No one blamed him. The captain ordered his men to clear the crows first. It took longer than expected. The birds were bold. They had been feeding all night and did not want to leave. Some of them had to be shot before the others would scatter. Even then, they did not go far. They sat in the nearby trees, watching, waiting, patient. They knew the soldiers would leave eventually. They knew the dead would still be there. Crows are patient creatures. They understand time in ways that humans do not. With the crows cleared, the burial detail got their first real look at what Bill Anderson had left behind. 24 bodies on the train platform, all of them stripped to their underclothes, all of them lying in roughly the same position, all of them face down in the morning sun. The captain walked the length of the platform slowly. He looked at each body, looked at the wounds, looked at the blood that had pooled and dried in the September heat. Something was wrong. Not wrong in the way that all massacres are wrong in a specific, particular way that he could not immediately identify. Something about the bodies, something about how they lay, something about the pattern. He walked back to the first body, knelt down, looked closer. Then he saw it. The wound was in the back of the head, just above where the spine meets the skull. The occipital bone, the doctors would call it later. A spot that means instant death if the bullet is placed correctly. This bullet had been placed correctly. The captain moved to the second body, rolled it slightly to see the wound, same spot, same angle, same precise placement. Third body, same. Fourth, fifth, sixth, all the same. The captain stood up. His hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, from the realization of what he was seeing. These men had not been killed in the chaos of battle. They had not been shot at random by an angry mob. They had been executed one by one, with a precision that spoke of practice, of patience, of something deeply methodical. Someone had taken their time. The captain called his sergeant over. "I want you to check every body," he said. "I want you to note the location of the fatal wound on each one." The sergeant was an older man, a veteran of the Mexican War. He had seen atrocities before, but his face went pale as he moved from body to body, as the pattern became undeniable. "Sir," he said finally, "they are all the same." The captain nodded. He had known they would be. "What does it mean?" the sergeant asked. "It means we are dealing with something different," the captain said. something planned. Someone wanted these men dead in exactly this way. He looked out at the Missouri prairie. Somewhere out there, Bill Anderson was still riding, still free, still carrying the weapon that had made these wounds. "We are dealing with a monster," the captain said quietly. "A methodical monster." The burial detail spent the next several hours documenting what they found. The captain insisted on it. He knew that reports would be filed, that commanders would ask questions, that someone somewhere would want to know exactly what had happened at Centralia. He wanted the record to be complete. 24 bodies, all male, all dressed in underclothes or less, some completely naked, all of them with their uniforms missing, stripped from their bodies before or after death, ages ranging from approximately 18 to 45, some with wedding rings still on their fingers, some with photographs of loved ones in their pockets, some with letters they had been carrying, now stained with blood. All of them shot in the same location, back of the head, just above the spine, close range, downward angle suggesting the shooter was standing, the victim kneeling. The captain wrote it all down, every detail, every observation, every piece of evidence that might help explain what had happened here. But even as he wrote, he knew the facts could not capture the truth of what he was seeing. Facts were cold, clinical. They told you what happened without explaining the horror of it. The horror was in the sameness, the repetition, the knowledge that someone had done this 24 times and never varied, never rushed, never made a mistake. That kind of consistency requires practice, requires patience, requires something that the captain did not want to name. One of the soldiers found something else. He was checking a body near the end of the platform when he noticed marks on the wood, scrapes and gouges in the planks. He called the sergeant over. "Look at this," he said. "The knees." The sergeant looked. The marks were clear once you knew what you were seeing. Knee prints, scrapes where someone had knelt on the rough wooden planks, 24 sets of marks, 24 places where men had knelt before they died. The sergeant walked the length of the platform. At each body he found corresponding marks, knee prints positioned just so, aligned with where the body had fallen. "They made them kneel," he said. "Made them kneel and then shot them from behind." "One by one," the captain said. He was standing at the end of the platform now, seeing the whole scene. 24 men, 24 executions, all of them forced to their knees before the bullet came. This was not anger, the captain said. This was ritual. The word spread through the burial detail. Ritual. The soldiers whispered it to each other as they worked, as they lifted bodies and carried them to the wagons, as they tried not to look at the wounds, at the faces, at the evidence of what had been done. Ritual execution, methodical murder. 24 men killed in exactly the same way. Some of the soldiers had known the dead. One of the bodies was a sergeant from Illinois. Another was a private who had written letters home about his sweetheart. Another was an engineer who had spent 2 years building bridges instead of fighting. None of that had mattered to Bill Anderson. He had killed them all the same way, the same wound, the same position, the same careful, precise, terrible efficiency. The medical officer arrived around noon. He was a young man, barely 30, with round spectacles and nervous hands. He had been trained at a hospital in Philadelphia before the war. He had seen plenty of gunshot wounds since then. He had never seen anything like this. The captain showed him the pattern, walked him from body to body, let him examine the wounds himself. "Same entry point," the doctor said quietly. "Same angle of penetration, same approximate distance." He paused, doing calculations in his head. The shooter was standing, the victims were kneeling. He shot from approximately 3 feet away, angled slightly downward. "Every time?" the captain asked. "Every time," the doctor confirmed. "The variation is minimal. This is remarkably consistent shooting." "What does that tell us?" The doctor removed his spectacles, cleaned them on his coat, put them back on. "It tells us the shooter was calm," he said, "practiced. He knew exactly what he was doing. He had done it before." 24 times in one morning? The doctor shook his head. No. Before that, before Centralia, this level of precision does not come from one day of killing. It comes from experience, from repetition, from doing this same thing many times before. The captain felt something cold settle in his stomach. "How many times?" he asked. The doctor did not answer. He did not need to. Thomas Goodman had told them about the counting. Goodman was the only survivor of the platform executions. He had been spared for prisoner exchange, forced to watch as 23 of his fellow soldiers were killed one by one. Later, when he was released, he would tell his story to anyone who would listen. The story of the 10 seconds, the story of Bill Anderson counting before each execution, the story of methodical murder disguised as mercy. The burial detail had heard the story before they arrived. They knew about the counting, about the praying, about the ritual that Bill had created. But hearing about it was different from seeing the evidence. The evidence said that Goodman was telling the truth. The evidence said that Bill Anderson had executed 24 men with the precision of a craftsman. The evidence said that this was not madness or chaos or the fog of war. It was practice. Why did he do it this way? The question haunted the captain as his men worked, as they loaded bodies onto wagons, as they covered the dead with canvas to protect them from the sun. Bill Anderson could have killed these men any way he wanted. He could have shot them in the chest, in the face, in any of 100 different ways. He could have let his men do the killing while he watched. He could have been random, chaotic, unpredictable. Instead, he had been precise, consistent, methodical. Why? The captain thought about it as he rode alongside the wagons, as the burial detail made its slow journey back toward Union lines, as the crows circled overhead, waiting for them to leave so they could return to whatever scraps remained. There were only two explanations that made sense. Either Bill Anderson was so damaged, so broken, so consumed by rage, that he had developed a ritual for killing, a routine that satisfied some dark need inside him, or he was sending a message. The captain suspected it was both. The message was simple if you knew how to read it. I am not crazy. I am not out of control. I am not an animal killing at random. I am precise. I am patient. I am inevitable. Every Union soldier who heard about Centralia would understand the message, would imagine themselves kneeling on that platform, would picture the gun behind their head, would feel the